From a homeless person to a celebrity, this is what happened to the hero of the last episode, Tom. He went through a tough school of life, lived in a tent, starved, and pursued his goal. He had a beautiful fiancée who was loyal to him and patiently waited for her man despite all the hardships. But unfortunately, just before the wedding, she tragically passed away. Grieving widowers quickly find solace, and on the horizon appeared the young Nina, who was able to mend his broken heart. Very soon they got married, and most importantly, our heroes will very soon have a wonderful child. But whether it will be a boy or a girl remains an enigma. Hold on tight, because in this episode you will encounter amazing events, unexpected twists, and of course a sea of emotions. Click like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single episode. Let's go! After the wedding, I learned that Nina, Tom's wife, had no intention of being faithful to him, and her goal was to be a deceitful partner. She didn't have to wait long. Being pregnant, she started flirting with some man not far from home while her husband was at work. She saw this man for the first time, but she had already allowed him a lot. Briefly. But when her husband came home from work, she pretended that nothing had happened. Why is some homeless person rummaging through the trash, looking for celebrity items? She chatted sweetly with Tom, but a storm of emotions raged in her heart. She understood that he was not just an acquaintance, and that was her secret. The husband was celebrating his birthday, but she didn't even entertain the idea of congratulating him. It was her own little rebellion, and her mind was shackled by thoughts of a new charming acquaintance. Nina gave birth to a beautiful girl named Polina, and now she craved the adventures that awaited her outside the walls of her home. Her husband was wonderful, but she suddenly wanted something new, something that would make her heart race. She invited her lover to meet at a bar, and with each step closer to the meeting, her excitement grew. However, when they arrived, her lover strangely disappeared. And he did the right thing. Perhaps it was fate that intervened in their dangerous game. Nina is determined to let loose, and instead of feeling down, she started dancing with another guy. She cast glances, winked, and flirted as if she had forgotten everything in the world except for that moment. She even allowed herself to kiss and hug. And every moment was filled with passion. Later, she returned home to her husband and daughter. Tom was there as a caring father, spending every minute with his little girl Polina. He taught her to lie on her tummy, played with her, bathed her, and gave her his fatherly warmth. He was a true father despite all the complexities and secrets of his wife's life. In the morning, Nina received a date invitation from a new guy with no idea about her family status. She needed him for entertainment, to escape from the routine. Upon arriving, they exchanged a couple of compliments like two players, as if starting a sweet game where each word was a step into a world of temptations. It didn't take her long to take decisive action, and she immediately dragged him into a corner to make out. She no longer cared where or how, as long as she could extinguish the burning flame of passion. It was time for Tom to go to work. He did not forget his role as a caring father and sent his daughter to kindergarten. After the date, Nina returned home and was surprised to find her lover already standing at the doorstep. His name is Athavar. She was slightly scared, fearing that her husband might come home at the most inopportune moment. But looking at the clock, she calmed down, realizing they still had a few precious minutes left. Moreover, Nina stunned her husband with the news that she was pregnant again. It's interesting to wonder who the father is, Athavar or Tom. However, despite the difficulties, Nina told her husband about the pregnancy. In my opinion, he, full of reliability and love, received this news with joy. He was ready to love Nina and raise children. His family was only growing larger, and this brought him happiness and confidence in the future. Nina, the mother who previously cared little for her daughter, decides to change her attitude and dedicate more time to Polina. As time goes by, Tom's best friend has aged. She had her own life, but their friendship remained strong. She still visited Tom, as she had always been a reliable support and a good friend to him. By the way, the winter holiday has arrived, and Nina decided to prepare a festive dinner for herself, Tom, and his girlfriend. She cooked wonderfully. and the dinner was beyond praise. Together, they modestly celebrated this special day in a little homely manner. While the festive mood was in the air, Tom decided to surprise his little family. He bought an adorable small puppy named Cleo, so that his daughter would have a loyal four-legged friend. The little girl immediately fell in love with the cute puppy, and the joy in her eyes knew no bounds. And when Santa Claus came to them with gifts, joy filled every corner of their home. By the way, Tom didn't notice how strangely Santa Claus kissed Nina on the neck until he saw them. With a wife like that, the old man might get something in return. Indeed, last year he kicked Tom out. It's still so simple with this person. The long-awaited day of childbirth has arrived, and this time Nina decided to give birth in the hospital. It seemed that her choice was not very successful, as the doctor left much to be desired and appeared to handle the medical equipment with little confidence. Nevertheless, thanks to her own strength and determination, she was able to give birth to a healthy boy named Igor Hardy. Over time, Tom continued to be a wonderful father, taking responsibility for both children, his daughter and son. Nina also seemed to remain a good wife in his eyes, because when he was home she dedicated time to him and the children. However, when he left for work, something inexplicable was happening. She would call the nanny and disappear to follow her desires and actively engage in fun with Athavar. The children grew up, and the puppy turned into a loyal and devoted adult dog. On the eve of the new year, Nina decided to throw her own celebration and invited her old friend over, announcing that he was a long-time acquaintance who happened to be passing through the city. Tom, due to his friendship with the opposite sex, saw nothing strange in it and did not object, giving Nina freedom and trust. While Tom was taking care of the children, Nina and her friend Athavar spent time together, and somehow it just happened that they decided to take a shower together. After that, it was simply impossible to stop. They felt an attraction to each other, strongly that they could not hold back. Their passion burned like a bright firework, and they found themselves in the family bed. The lovers were sure that as long as the husband was busy with the children, he would not come into the bedroom. When Tom entered the bedroom, they were already getting dressed, but he still caught them at the scene of the crime, and the family bed had been brutally desecrated. However, remarkably, he managed to remain calm and started a conversation with both of them. He said that he now needed to rethink everything that had happened and left to gather his thoughts. In the bar, he found support in the form of his friend, who came to help him decide how to move forward with his life. It was a difficult choice for him. Upon returning home, Tom decided to take a radical step. He is getting divorced from Nina. The children will also live with him. He earns well, and they will have a good future. If necessary, we will hire a nanny. Nina, being unemployed, can freely live with her new partner. It was not an easy choice, but Tom felt that it was the only way out of a difficult situation. On the way home, his nerves gave out, as he had done so much for his wife and family that he felt physically unwell. As the doctors would later say, it was a heart attack, dizziness, loss of orientation, chest pain, and all of this in front of his family. Perhaps he wanted to say something else to them, but his heart stopped, and death came for him. His poor little children witnessed all of this from beginning to end. They wept over their father's body, realizing that they would never see him again. Although the spouses decided to divorce, their life together made Tom a very close person to Nina, and she certainly did not wish him such a fate. The children couldn't stop crying until their mother took them into the house. Over time, Polina's and Igor Hardy's children grew older. They continued to go to school and actively develop. During this time, Nina was pregnant again. It was already difficult for her to cope with 2 children on her own. Tom's savings were slowly but surely dwindling, and she realized that she needed support and financial stability. Nina decided to propose marriage to Athavar and suggested that he move in with her. He agreed. He was good at climbing with the children and was ready to take on the responsibility for this family. When he moved in with Nina, it suddenly turned out that he was also unemployed, but both of them had some savings, about $20,000 each. This money could provide them with some time without the need to look for work. Thus, they decided to face all the difficulties together and build a future together, relying on their savings and supporting each other in difficult moments. The whole situation had a very negative effect on Polina, and instead of being an obedient girl, she became a rebellious teenager. She misbehaved a lot, often stayed after class, and she also started to develop feelings for her teacher, as she might have had a psychological trauma and lacked a father. But strange twists of consciousness and teenage hormones pushed her towards a path of a forbidden relationship, and she didn't just want to spend time with her teacher, she needed more. One day, Polina decided to speed things up and began to openly seduce the teacher, but he refused her, saying that she was too young and that there could be no question of any romantic relationships. The evening when Nina was supposed to give birth brought an unexpected moment in their lives. Tom appeared, and to their surprise he was full of kindness and forgiveness. He allowed himself to play with the puppy, visit his son, hugged him with paternal tenderness, saying that he would always be there and would watch over him so that he would grow strong and cope with all the difficulties in life. At the most critical moment, when Nina began to give birth, he came to her room. He sat in the rocking chair and was by her side during this important time, supporting her with his presence. After the birth of the child, with a sense of duty fulfilled, the ghost left Tom, having first taken a luxurious bath. Apparently, they turned off the hot water in heaven. This unusual moment marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another in the lives of Nina and her children. The birth of the twins, Dennis and Alina, was a true miracle and surprise for Nina. Everyone was expecting one baby, but fate gifted them two at once, bringing such long-awaited joy into their home. Nina was delighted by these two little gifts of life, which brought with them joyful laughter and new emotions. After the birth of Dennis and Alina, all of Nina's care and attention went to the babies, and this was quite natural. She couldn't take her eyes off them and cared for them day and night. All these moments became true treasures for her, and she was ready to give them everything. However, Tom's children found themselves somewhat forgotten in this hustle and bustle, and their connection with their mother weakened. This caused them to feel a sense of loss and loneliness. In their hearts there remained a place for hope that somehow they could regain their mother's attention and love. Polina graduated from school, albeit with some difficulty, and now nothing should stand in the way of her long-standing passion, so she invited her former teacher over. The girl is young and hot, so her teacher, who had been lonely for a long time, was clearly not against it. In the relationship between Nina and Athava, a storm brewed, and each new day brought a fresh wave of conflicts and discord. Nina accused him of inaction and lack of work. Disputes about raising the children turned into real battles. The children were becoming spoiled, and Tom did not find the strength within himself to punish them strictly. He frequently tended to spoil them with candies and toys, rather than establish rules and discipline. In these moments, their relationship began to crack significantly, as neither of them wanted to hear each other. While the mother and stepfather were figuring out who was right and how to raise the children, Polina was spending the night with her teacher in the hot tub in their yard. While the parents were not concerned about this at all, they were only worried about their shaky marriage and their own emotions. Polina, having lost the sense of parental care and attention, seemed to have retreated into her own world. She became a true rebel, mocking her classmates. At school, she became famous for her insults and taunts, causing confusion and discontent among teachers and classmates. The bullying did not stop at the school walls. Polina aggressively attacked even the postman, and one day her aggression escalated into a fight. Caught up in family disputes, the parents even forgot about their small children. They became smelly, dirty, hungry. They were even forgotten in their high chairs. And suddenly it turned out that Polina's boyfriend, her former teacher, was still quite the catch. He took advantage of the situation and began to show interest in Polina's mother. Ed Shumok moved into their house and began to have fun with both the mother and the daughter. Nina increasingly starts to think that she no longer needs her husband, but for now decides not to rush, as she knows that the teacher is her daughter's boyfriend and is not yet ready to announce her relationship. Polina starts to suspect something and becomes increasingly irritable.
Moreover, she remembers her father every evening, whom she misses and comes to visit and cry at his grave. The poor girl's psyche has been severely affected. All around her she sees only deception and betrayal. Attempts to tell her mother about her feelings are indeed fruitless. She doesn't care. She can only think about how to tell her daughter that she and the teacher are indeed now together. Nina becomes increasingly irritable and cannot stand being around her unloved husband. Arguments escalate into a fight and she files for divorce. Otkar is looking for new housing and is moving. One problem solved, now he needs to find a way to tell his daughter about the teacher. But while they were entertaining themselves once again, Polina saw everything and, unable to bear the betrayal of her mother and her beloved, ran away from home, overwhelmed with suffering and unable to hold back her tears. What medicine is often taken for a broken heart? To burn it off and have fun at the club. Near the club she met some new friends. By the way, they are some famous guys. To her great disappointment, she was not allowed into the club. Entry was only for VIPs. Polina, feeling mixed emotions, decides not to go home right away. Her soul was filled with a storm of emotions, and she preferred to spend the night on a bench, away from family problems. The night outside was cold, but she did not feel the chill. She gazed intently at the dark sky, still searching for answers to her tormenting questions. The next morning, very hungry and exhausted, Polina gathered herself and headed home. She felt a bit more lively on the streets of the city, deciding to take a break and have a cup of coffee. She had a little money, and after bargaining a bit, she received a decent discount. For a quarter of the cost of an energizing drink, she was ready to find out the truth and come to terms with her fate. She burst in and confronted her now ex-boyfriend, trying to sort out their relationship. In response, he mumbled something to her and said that he hadn't promised her anything, as he had indeed been quite cold with her, but that didn't stop him from fooling around with her. It turned out that he prefers older women, and his choice is her attractive mother, not her. Polina immediately went to her mother to confront her, but her mother also told her that she would be with him, and Polina would have to accept it. By the way, it was her mother's birthday today. She had become just as much of an old woman as her new man. Polina did not want to accept this situation and told her mother that it was either her or that old man, to which her mother replied that he would be living with them, and that was that. And Polina decides to move out. Polina made an important decision to use the money, $5,000 that she inherited from her father. She rents a cheap apartment that was completely empty. There was little money, and in the end it was enough for a rusty stove and a refrigerator, the cheapest toilet with a shower. And instead of a normal bed, she put a folding bed in the bedroom with some tattered, chewed-up carpet. And she also had enough for an old computer. Now she needs to feed herself. And for that, she urgently needs to find a job. What career could a child with a wounded soul choose? Of course, she chose a career as a criminal. Now she is a street thug. To make her career more successful, she needs to cause more trouble. And she starts from home, beginning to write all sorts of nasty things on social media, because there is always someone wrong on the internet. Polina is tormented by her mother's obsessive influence, which cannot leave her alone. And she decides to change not only her place of residence but also her appearance. Bright pink paint, pierced eyebrows and nose, as well as oversized clothing. All of this becomes a symbol of her determination to move away from the past and essentially become a different person. Changing her appearance, Polina decides to change her emotions as well. A quarrel with a neighbor in the stairwell becomes an outlet for her pent-up feelings of indignation. Soon, Polina realizes that she misses her brother Igor very much. He was a support for her after her father's departure, and she feels that his sister also needs him. Polina invites him over, wanting to reconnect with the only person in the family who has always been close to her. Polina, wanting to restore her connection with her brother, gives him the keys to her apartment. This is a sign of her deep attachment to him and her desire to be close at any time. In her pursuit of happiness and tranquility, she begins practicing yoga, and this spiritual practice helps her attain at least a bit of inner harmony. The call from her mother, informing her about the marriage proposal from teacher Kent, seems strange and incomprehensible to Polina. In my opinion, she is just mocking. She even asks whether she should marry him or not. "You know what, mother? This is your life, so you decide for yourself." to which the mother replied very rudely, "You don't care, she's your mother. You can't be relied on," and she hung up. It was a very strange call. Polina finally meets someone with whom she finds it easy and pleasant to communicate. This acquaintance turns out to be not only a kindred spirit, but also a celebrity, which adds even more charm to their meeting. The new friend indeed becomes a true support and source of encouragement for Polina. After the meeting, Polina went home. The new friend, when Polina was not at home, came to her with a suitcase and acted as if she were the hostess, prepared food, practiced yoga, and surfed the internet a bit. At work, Polina received a promotion. Now she is a thief. When she came home, she saw her friend cooking something. They were chatting pleasantly when suddenly the friend felt unwell. She lost consciousness and fell to the floor. Death came for her. Polina tried to threaten her friend, but it was in vain. It's always like this. As soon as you find a good person, they leave this world. How hard it is for Polina to accept this again. Terrible tragedies are happening in her life. She is very tired. She felt so bad that she simply lay down on the bed, turning her back to the wall, quietly sobbing, and along with the tears, her emotions were pouring out. Anger demanded an outlet, and she had a computer.
Beware, forum hamsters. Polina has gone on the little warpath.
Hooray! The first joyful news. She got accepted into the University of Villainy. She will have to take out a loan for her studies because the amount is too large for her, and she doesn't want to live in a dorm. After all, there is also work. She has to cope. To pass her subjects well, she decides to improve her logic skills and buys chess. I hope she has enough money until payday. Suddenly the phone rings. The deceased friend calls and asks to meet. It's very strange, but Polina agrees. The encounter with the ghost of the hookah and the mysterious old woman with a bag who literally attacks her creates a mysterious and unforgettable atmosphere. Perhaps Polina's life has become so unusual and complicated that even such events no longer seem surprising. She goes to work and university. Although it was quite difficult to combine them, it was important for her to finish her studies, and that is why she worked diligently. At work, she excelled and became the leader of a gang. Once, however, she was detained by the police and interrogated. But since there is no torture in Sims, Polina held out and did not betray her accomplices. The police let her go this time. Then the phone rings. On the other end is her mother. She informs her that she is feeling unwell and suggests that they meet. Polina is still very upset with her mother for simply hanging up the phone. After this call, she thinks for a long time. She feels sorry that her mother is ill, but her resentment towards her is stronger than her pity. After a while, her mother calls again and asks her daughter to visit. But her main motivation is to meet her younger brother and sister, whom she hasn't seen in a long time. She noticed changes in their lives, including hearing problems, Dennis, which leads to reflection. Polina is faced with a choice, to reconcile with her mother and try to restore family relations or to stay on her own path. She tries not to create a conflict with her mother, but still something goes wrong and she ends up arguing with her. And before leaving, they steal money from her pocket. The amount is small, only $20-30, but still. At the exit of the precinct, Polina approaches her father's grave, cries and says how much she misses him and how she longs for him. One fine day, while Polina was practicing yoga, her mother called her once again, crying, and said that Kent had died. They were not together for long. Mysterious and anomalous events occur in the apartment that Polina rents. A mysterious ghost seems to be a part of this reality. It appears and starts to take an interest in her books, rummages through bags, and sometimes even plays on the computer. Even the toilet sometimes seems to come alive and starts to fly. From time to time, the ghost suddenly decides to prepare dinner and treat itself to the contents of Polina's refrigerator. These unexpected incidents could indeed confuse most people, but Polina perceives them with astonishing philosophy. On the contrary, she enjoys the prepared food after a long work day and begins to treat herself. However, the ghost is not always in a friendly mood. Sometimes he messes things up, including the computer, and leaves the owner in a state of some anxiety. Nevertheless, Polina finds a way to cope with these mystical manifestations and even meets them with a sense of humor. Recently, Polina received an inheritance of $3,000 from her native grandfather. Not bad at all, but she already had some money since she occasionally stole. Polina invited her beloved brother Igor to his birthday, and this meeting was especially touching for her. She prepared a dinner for him, and together they sweetly celebrated this important day. Over time, Igor gradually grew into a very handsome and attractive young man, and his long red hair gave him a unique and special charm indeed. Polina was proud of her brother and was happy about the opportunity to spend time together with him. Another promotion. Now Polina is a criminal nun. Her salary has already risen to $23 an hour. Polina has a pen pal. It's a girl named Lydia. The meeting with her new friend was incredibly pleasant for Polina. They had a wonderful time having fun, having a pillow fight, and chatting about everything. Polina finally felt less lonely and found a friendship that made her days brighter and more cheerful. When her friend left for home, joy from that wonderful meeting remained in her heart. After the party, Polina faced her neighbor, who complained that she was noisy, rude, and troublesome. The conversation with him yielded no results, for which he was beaten right in the stairwell. The neighbor, it must be said, is a strange guy, as after everything that happened, he broke into her home, where he understandably got beaten up and was thrown out of her apartment. The next morning, she and her new friend decided to go to a cozy cafe to spend time in a pleasant atmosphere. The place turned out to be so cozy that they began to immerse themselves in conversation so deeply that at some point they didn't notice how the excitement and intimacy of the moment took over, and they exchanged a tender kiss. Want to know what happens next? Subscribe to the channel and give a thumbs up. As soon as this video reaches 1,500 likes, the continuation will be released. And don't forget to write your comment on what you think will happen next between Lydia and Polina. Until we meet again.